You think you know the royal family. You've seen the pageantry, the weddings broadcast to billions, the carefully orchestrated balcony waves. But what about the people who actually keep the machine running? The nannies who raise future kings, the housemaids who dust priceless artifacts at dawn, the footmen who serve dinner while pretending not to hear state secrets. What's it really like to serve the crown? Let me take you behind the gilded doors, into a world of unwritten rules, impossible standards, and secrets that never leave the palace walls. Working for the royal family sounds glamorous, and in some ways, it is. You're serving history, living in palaces, witnessing moments that will be written about for centuries. But here's what they don't tell you. The pay is terrible, shockingly, insultingly terrible. A housemaid at Buckingham Palace in the 1990s earned around £12,000 a year. That's roughly $16,000. In one of the most expensive cities in the world. A footman made slightly more, maybe £15,000 if they were lucky. Royal nannies, despite raising the future King of England, earned between £30,000 and £40,000. Decent, but nowhere near what a private nanny for a wealthy family would make. So why did anyone do it? Because you weren't just working for money, you were working for prestige, for history, for a line on your resume that opened every door in the world. Former royal household staff was a golden ticket. After serving the Queen, you could name your price anywhere else. But while you were there, you lived modestly, often in small staff quarters in the palace, sharing bathrooms, eating in staff dining rooms, living a strange double life where you inhabited some of the most magnificent buildings in the world, but owned almost nothing. The golden handcuffs, they called it, bound by honor, not money. On your first day working for the royal family, you're given a staff handbook. It covers the basics, dress code, working hours, protocols. But the real rules, those you learn by watching, by making mistakes, by being quietly corrected by senior staff who've been there for decades. Never speak unless spoken to by a member of the royal family. Never make eye contact unless they initiate it. Never turn your back on the Queen, ever. You walk backward out of rooms if necessary. Never, ever touch a royal. Even a friendly pat on the shoulder could end your career. If you're a housemaid and a royal enters the room you're cleaning, you face the wall, stand completely still, become invisible, wait until they leave. If you're serving tea and you spill even a drop, you don't apologize. You simply replace it silently and disappear. You don't use elevators if a royal is using them. You take the stairs, always. You never discuss your work, not with friends, not with family, not even with other staff outside your department. The confidentiality agreement you sign isn't just legal boilerplate, it's enforced. Former staff who've spoken to the press have been sued, blacklisted, their careers destroyed. The motto is simple: never complain, never explain. And if you work for the royals, that applies to you too. Some royal staff remain anonymous. Others become part of history. Tiggy Legge-Bourke was the latter. Hired in 1993 as a companion and nanny to Princes William and Harry, Tiggy represented everything Diana wasn't. Where Diana was glamorous and fragile, Tiggy was outdoorsy and robust. Where Diana was trapped by protocol, Tiggy was refreshingly normal. She took the princes fishing, taught them to shoot, let them be messy, loud, normal boys. William and Harry adored her. Diana hated her. The tension between Diana and Tiggy became one of the palace's worst-kept secrets. Diana suspected Charles had romantic feelings for Tiggy. There was no evidence of this, but Diana's paranoia, fueled by her deteriorating mental state and her crumbling marriage, fixated on the nanny. At a staff Christmas party in 1995, Diana publicly confronted Tiggy. In front of dozens of witnesses, Diana allegedly said, "So sorry to hear about the baby." The implication was clear and vicious. Diana was suggesting Tiggy had been pregnant with Charles's child and had an abortion. It wasn't true. Tiggy was devastated. She consulted lawyers. The palace went into damage control mode. But here's the thing about serving the crown. You can't fight back. You can't defend yourself publicly. You take the hit and stay silent. Tiggy stayed. She continued caring for William and Harry through their most traumatic years. She was there when Diana died in 1997. She helped those boys navigate grief under the microscope of global media. Years later, both William and Harry credited Tiggy with giving them normalcy, with teaching them that life could be fun, that they could be more than just princes. When William married Kate in 2011, Tiggy was invited to the wedding, not as a curiosity, as family. That's the power of a royal nanny. You don't just raise children, you shape kings. If you want to know the real secrets of the palace, talk to a housemaid. Not that they'll tell you, but they know. Housemaids at Buckingham Palace start work at 6 in the morning. They move through the state rooms like ghosts, dusting, polishing, maintaining perfection before the palace wakes. They know which bedrooms are actually being used, which marriages are intact, which royals are sleeping where. They see the discarded clothing, the empty bottles, the separate bedrooms, the evidence of affairs that will be denied for decades. They clean up after state dinners. They know which world leaders got drunk, which ambassadors fought with their spouses, which prime ministers left personal items behind. One former housemaid described finding love letters not addressed to a royal's spouse, finding evidence of eating disorders, finding medication that suggested secrets the family would never acknowledge publicly. But here's the code. You see nothing. You say nothing. You are furniture. The royals conduct their lives as if staff don't exist. Conversations happen in front of housemaids that would be front-page scandals. Arguments, confessions, moments of vulnerability. And the staff, they dust around it, literally and figuratively. One maid recalled cleaning Princess Margaret's apartment in Kensington Palace. Margaret, the Queen's rebellious younger sister, was notorious for her affairs and her drinking. The maid would arrive to find cigarette burns in priceless furniture, empty gin bottles, evidence of parties that lasted until dawn. She'd clean it all, replace what could be replaced, hide what couldn't, and never say a word. That was the job. Not just maintaining palaces, maintaining secrets. Everything changed when Diana arrived. Before Diana, the royal family operated on centuries of protocol. Staff knew their place. The system ran smoothly. Diana didn't understand the system, or maybe she understood it too well and rejected it. She talked to staff, really talked to them, learned their names, asked about their families, hugged them when they were upset. For staff used to being invisible, it was shocking. Some loved her for it. Finally, a royal who saw them as human. Others were uncomfortable. This wasn't how things were done. Familiarity bred confusion. Where were the boundaries? Diana would wander into the kitchens late at night in her dressing gown, raiding the fridge, chatting with whichever staff member was on duty. She'd sit on the floor of the nursery, playing with her sons while the nanny tried to maintain some structure. She broke every rule, and in breaking them, she revealed how absurd some of those rules were. But she also made things harder. Her eating disorder meant staff had to navigate impossible situations, preparing meals she wouldn't eat, pretending not to notice when she disappeared into bathrooms. Her paranoia meant staff were caught in the middle. Diana suspected everyone. She thought her phone was tapped, her rooms bugged, her staff reporting on her. Some of it was true. The palace was monitoring her, but most of it was the product of her deteriorating mental state. Staff who were genuinely loyal to Diana found themselves suspected of betrayal. Staff who remained neutral found themselves caught between Diana and Charles, both demanding loyalty. When the marriage finally collapsed, staff had to choose sides. Some went with Charles to Highgrove, some stayed with Diana at Kensington Palace. Families that had served the royals for generations were split, and through it all, they maintained silence. Publicly, everything was fine. Behind closed doors, the royal family was imploding. What keeps royal staff silent isn't just legal, agreements or career concerns. It's something deeper, a sense of duty, of being part of something larger than themselves. Paul Burrell, Diana's butler, eventually broke that code. He wrote books, gave interviews, monetized his access. He was ostracized by other royal staff, seen as a traitor, someone who'd violated the sacred trust. Because here's what outsiders don't understand. Royal staff don't see themselves as mere employees. They're guardians, protectors of an institution that survived 1,000 years. They know the scandals, the affairs, the dysfunction, the very human failures of a family trapped in an inhuman system. And they keep those secrets because airing them would damage not just individuals, but the institution itself. A footman who served during the 1990s described it this way: you see them at their worst, their most vulnerable, their most human, and you protect that, because if you don't, who will? They've seen Queen Elizabeth cry. They've seen Prince Philip rage. They've seen Charles in moments of profound loneliness. They've witnessed the cost of duty, the sacrifice of being born into a role you can never escape. And in witnessing that, they become complicit, not in a sinister way, but in a deeply human one. They protect the family because, despite everything, they care about them. So why do it? Why work for terrible pay, under impossible rules, guarding secrets that could make you rich if you sold them? Every former staff member gives the same answer: the honor. There's something profound about being trusted with history, about serving an institution that connects you to centuries of tradition. A housemaid who polished the same silver that was used at Queen Victoria's coronation. A footman who served tea to world leaders who'd decide the fate of nations. A nanny who taught a future king to tie his shoes. These aren't just jobs, they're legacies. When Queen Elizabeth died in 2022, the staff who'd served her wept, not because they'd lost an employer, because they'd lost someone they'd protected, served, and in their way, loved. That's the secret no one talks about. Behind all the protocol and distance and rules, real relationships form. Not friendships, exactly. Something more complicated. A mutual dependence. A shared understanding that you're all trapped in the same strange system, playing roles that history demands. Things are changing. William and Kate run a much smaller household than previous generations. They employ fewer staff, pay them better, treat them more like normal employers. There's less formality, more flexibility. Staff can have relationships, families, lives outside the palace walls, but something's been lost too. The mystique, the sense that you're part of something ancient and sacred. Whether that's progress or loss depends on who you ask. Maybe that's progress. Maybe it's necessary for the monarchy to survive in the modern world. But the old staff, the ones who served Queen Elizabeth through decades, they shake their heads. They remember when serving the crown meant something more than a paycheck, when silence was sacred, when duty meant sacrifice, when being invisible was its own kind of power. Here's what serving the crown really means. It means living in contradiction, inhabiting palaces while barely affording rent, witnessing history while being forbidden from speaking about it, being trusted with secrets while being treated as furniture. It means understanding that the royal family is both extraordinary and deeply ordinary, that they eat cornflakes, that they argue about stupid things, that they're trapped by the same institution they represent. It means knowing that every scandal you read about in the tabloids is both true and false. True in the basic facts, false in the complexity and humanity it erases. It means being part of a system that's beautiful and absurd, ancient and dying, magnificent and profoundly lonely. The staff who've served the crown don't regret it, but they don't romanticize it either. They know what the rest of us can only guess, that behind the gold and the glory, behind the crowns and the ceremony, there are just people, struggling, surviving, trying to maintain dignity while the world watches. And behind those people, invisible and essential, are the ones who truly keep the crown running. The nannies, the housemaids, the footmen, the butlers, the ones who see everything, say nothing, and carry the weight of secrets to their graves. That's what it means to serve the crown. Not glamour, not wealth, just duty, silence, and a strange, complicated honor that most of us will never understand. If this story mattered to you, please like the video and subscribe to support this channel. It helps these stories stay visible and remembered. Thank you for your support and for watching. Hope to see you next time.